And now we get the author's view. And you can kind of hear his struggle as well. No one returns from the war, ever. Mothers get back a sad semblance of their sons. Embittered, aggressive beasts, hardened against the whole world and believing in nothing except death. Yesterday's soldiers are no longer belong to their parents. They belong to war. And only their body returns from the war. Their soul stays there. But the body still comes home. And the war within it dies gradually, shedding itself in layers, scale by scale. Slowly, very slowly, yesterday's soldier, sergeant, or captain transforms from a soulless dummy with empty eyes and a burned out soul into something like a human being. The unbearable nervous tension ebbs away. The aggression simmers down. The hatred passes. The loneliness abates. It's the fear that lingers longest of all. An animal fear of death. But that too passes with time. And you start to learn to live this life again. You learn to walk without checking the ground beneath your feet for mines and tripwires, and step on manholes on the road without fear, and stand at your full height in the open ground. And you go shopping, talk on the phone, and sleep on a bed. You learn to take for granted the hot water in the taps, the electricity and the central heating. You no longer jump at loud noises. You start to live, at first, because that's how it's worked out, and you've stayed alive. You do it without gaining much joy from life. You look at everything as a windfall that came your way through some whim of fate. You lived your life from cover to cover in those 180 days you were there, and the remaining 50-odd years can't add anything to that time or detract from it. Then you start to get drawn into life. You get interested in this game, which isn't for real. You pass yourself off as a fully fledged member of society. And the mask of a normal person grows onto you, no longer rejected by your body. And those around you think you are just the same as everyone else. But no one knows your real face. And no one knows that you are no longer a person. Happy, laughing people walk around you, accepting you as one of their own, and no one knows where you have been. But that doesn't bother you anymore. You now remember the war as some cartoon horror movie you once saw, but you no longer recognize yourself as one of its characters. You don't tell anyone the truth anymore. You can't explain what war really is to someone who's never been there, just as you can't explain green to a blind person, or a man can't know what it's like to give birth. They simply don't have the necessary sensory organs. You can't explain or understand war. All you can do is experience it. You're still waiting for something all these years, God knows what, though. You simply can't believe that it ends just like that without any consequences. You're probably waiting for someone to shed some light on it all. For someone to come up to you and say, brother, I know where you've been. I know what war is, and I know what you've been fighting for. That's very important to know why and what for. Why the brothers the war gave to you had to die. Why people were killed. Why they were fired on goodwill, justice, faith, and love. Crushed children and bombed women. Why the world need to lose that girl I saw on the runway with her smashed head and a bit of her brain lying in an ammo box next to her. Why? But no one tells you. And then you Yesterday's soldier, sergeant, or captain, start to explain it to yourself. You take a pen and paper and produce the first phrase as you start to write. You still don't know what it'll be. A short story, or a poem, or a song. The lines come with difficulty, each letter tearing your body like a shard being pulled from a wound. You feel this pain physically as the war comes out of you and onto paper, shaking you so that you can't see the letters. You are back there again, and death once more rules everything. The room fills with moaning and fear, and once again you hear the big guns, the screams of the wounded, and people being burned alive, and the whistle of mortar shells falling towards your prone back. The dead rise from their graves and form up, a great number of them, every one who is dear to you and was killed. You can already spot the familiar faces. Igor, Vaseline, Four Eyes, the platoon commander. They lean towards you and whisper, and their whispering fills the room. Go on, brother. Tell them how we burned in the carriers. Tell them how we cried in surrounded checkpoints in August of 1996, how we whimpered and begged them not to kill us as they pinned us to the ground with their feet and slit our throats. Tell them how boys' bodies twitch when bullets hit them. You survived only because we died there. Go on. They should know all this. No one should die before they know what war is. And tinged with blood, the written words appear one after the other. Vodka is downed by the pint while death and madness sit beside you, nudging you and correcting your pen. And there you are. Yesterday's soldier, sergeant, or captain. Concussed 100 times, shot to pieces, patched up, reassembled, half crazed and stupefied. And you write and write and whine with helplessness and sorrow, and tears pour down your face and stick into your stubble. And you realize that you should not have returned from the war. And that is where the book closes. And those are the demons. Those are the demons. Why did I survive? Why not them? What about the innocents we killed? Am I good for anything else besides war?